Yo, what's up, guys? So I'm gonna be going over the spoilers today for Murders at Karlov Manor. Next MTG set releasing February 9th. So I'm just gonna go over the spoilers, tell you guys what I'm thinking about all this. And yeah, let's just look into it. So, Market Watch Phantom. It's the obligatory bear, but when you do a thing, it gains flying. We get these all the time. It's usually around some set mechanic, but so whenever a creature with 2 or less power enters the battlefield, it gains flying until end of turn. So I think it'll be useful in draft. Clearly not really meant for any constructed format, but it's cool. Spirit Detective is interesting typing. Detective being, I think, only used in unsets up until now, so that's cool. Sanitation Automaton, another draft card more or less. When it enters, you surveil 1. It's not a bad pick for draft. Low mana creatures usually aren't, and 2/1 isn't terrible stats. Sharp-Eyed Rookie being another bear. Enters the battlefield. It more or less has evolve. So whenever a creature enters with power greater than its power or toughness greater than its toughness, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. So evolve and you create a clue token. So this is going to help you go through your deck. It's going to get big. I believe it's going to be really strong in draft. However, I don't think it's actually good enough to see a home outside of draft. Homicide Investigator, so whenever 1 or more non-token creatures you control die, you create a clue token. Activates only once, so it's pretty good. I mean, another bear, a lot of bears in this set that aren't bears. However, I don't think it's really anything to go crazy for. We have Morbid Opportunist that does the same thing, but instead of a clue, you just straight up get to draw the card. I think that's probably a better card. No Witnesses. Each player who controls the most creatures investigates to destroy all creatures. Board Wipe. I would say not a really great board wipe. I mean, I usually don't want to give my opponents clues. Even if I get a clue too, I think I'd rather just be playing Wrath of God. But I think in limited, it'll be pretty good. Dog Walker. So Disguise is this new mechanic. It's basically just Morph, except that the Morph creature has Ward 2 as well, so it's just better Morph. And when it's turned face up, you create 2 1/1 dogs. So I think this card isn't bad. I think Vigilance is cool. It'll be able to attack and then block. 3/1 for 2 is pretty threatening. However, I just don't think it's going to do anything outside of course, limited. Loxodon Eavesdropper. So you create a clue when it enters, 4 mana 3/3, and whenever you draw your second card each turn, it gets +1/+1, and Vigilance until end of turn. Notably, that's not like a +1/+1 counter, so it's going to go straight back to being bad. So I don't think it's really worthwhile. Maybe it'll see draft play, but I just don't think it does enough. Felonious Rage, so it's red, well, 1 red, gives a creature +2/+0 and haste, which is actually pretty strong. Giving creatures haste is always good. And then when that creature dies, you create a 2/2 white and blue detective token. So it's going to do a fair bit, putting pressure on your opponent. Another not really going to see out of draft. Extract a Confession, so as an additional cost, you may exile cards with total mana 6 or greater from your graveyard, which is the new evidence mechanic. Each opponent sacrificed a creature. If evidence was collected instead, each opponent sacrificed a creature with greatest power among creatures they control. So this is, I think Soul Shatter's that card. This is Soul Shatter, but 1 mana cheaper if you can collect evidence. So I think that's pretty good overall. I don't think it's gonna see ton of play. However, it puts a good amount of pressure on your opponent. Definitely a strong common. Case of Medusa's Kiss. So what it does is it will destroy a creature that's already been dealt damage. This is kind of like, we've been seeing this ability more. There's You're Already Dead, which came out in 2022, I guess. There was one in March of the Machines, I believe. The second ability is when 3 creatures have died, it turns into a 4/4 Gorgon with Death Touch. So, I mean, that's not bad for what it does. Having 3 creatures die is a little rough. However, being able to do all that for 1 mana, I think is actually pretty strong. Which, we haven't come across one of these before, but it's an enchantment. They're called Cases. They're kind of like, they look like sagas more or less, but work a little differently. Demonstrated Phantom is a 6 mana 4/3, flying, and then it's got the fake morph ability, so I think it's just overcosted. I don't think this is really going to go anywhere. I don't think you're getting enough out of it, personally. So yeah, Undercover Butler. So this card, interestingly enough, is part of the Clue crossover set that's coming with this. So I think the Clue set is going to be like $75 or something. That's what I saw it for on Target. But it's got some interesting-ish cards. It's like they reflavored Clue to be Magic. I don't know if it's like a full Clue board game too. But it's certainly interesting. So when it attacks the player with the most life or tied for most life, it can't be blocked. So there's no chance of drafting this, which is fine. But I don't think this is really going to have any place outside of, like, the Clue, whatever it is. It's not very good outside of that. Voya, Jaws of the Conclave, so it's 2 red, green, white, Vigilance, Trample, Ward. When it attacks, put X +1/+1 counters on each creature you control, where X is the number of elves you control. Draw a creature for each wolf you control. So, I actually really like the idea of an elf-wolf matchup deck. I think this is a great card to do it with. You know, you go wide with elf tokens, and then you bump them all up. I think it's going to be really strong. However, notably, a lot of elf commanders seem to be lower mana cost, and hoping to act faster than this, which is 5. But with elves comes mana dorks, so I think this could see some commander play. I don't really see it having any limited play, but it looks pretty cool. Tomic, Wielder of the Law. So I believe Tomic is Ral Zarek's husband, which I'm assuming so because it has affinity for planeswalkers. Flying, Vigilance. Whenever an opponent attacks with creatures, if 2 or more of those creatures are attacking you and or a planeswalker you control, that opponent loses 3 life and you draw a card. So, it's a fair amount of value. I think a 3 mana 2/4 Vigilance flyer is going to be really good in draft. I think it's a little bit of a bummer that you can't have a Ral Zarek in this deck if it's your commander, because, like, if they're husbands, that'd be cute, you know. Hold on. I think about this now. Hold on. Is Tomic? Yeah, Tomic is Ral Zarek's husband. Okay. I was trying to remember. Yeah, otherwise, the ability's good. I think it's going to be really good in Limited. I think it could see some possible Standard play, some possible Modern play. But I'm only so much into those formats, so let me know what you think in the description or comments or whatever. Melik, Reforged Researcher. 5 mana, power and toughness are equal to twice the number of instant sorcery cards in your graveyard. Twice. That's very strong. I think it'll be strong. It's interesting seeing Melik become a detective. And then the first instant sorcery spell you cast each turn costs 3 less to cast. I think that's pretty strong. And I think it will definitely have some commander play. Outside of that, though, it doesn't have protection, it doesn't have trample, it doesn't have flying. I don't see it going anywhere near standard or modern. Well, not standard, maybe standard, definitely not modern. Lavinia, Fall to Conspiracy, you can, 3 mana. Lavinia is part of the Clue set. Never mind, my bad. So I guess Lavinia comes with Clue. So we're not gonna worry too much about that. But whenever you cast your second spell each turn, Investigates, you create a Clue, and then you can tap her to create 2 colorless, which is enough to sacrifice a Clue to draw a card. You can only do it on your opponent's turn. I think that's really interesting card design. It's like a free draw once on your opponent's turn, or if you are able to cast 2. Definitely strange to be in the Clue set and not in the regular set. I don't know how that's going to affect its play rate. I also don't know if the Clue cards are going to be legal in Standard or Modern or any other formats besides Commander, or even if they're going to be in Commander. Moving on, the Knife, another Clue card. So, equip creature has +1/+0 and first strike. You can sacrifice it to draw a card. I don't know, I feel like there is something here with like a sacrificeable equipment, so that, like, you can use it for value later. I don't think it's gonna really see any play. The Library looks like a Clue room, another Clue card. Tap land, and you can pay 4 to investigate. So a steady stream of artifacts does sound good. However, I think 4 mana is just a little bit too much to be paying, especially because you then have to sacrifice the Clue for 2. So it's like a 6 mana draw card. I mean, it could go somewhere, but I don't think it's going to be worth it. Mastermind Plum, so like I said, they kind of reflavored Clue to be magic-y. So this is, I forget, is it Mr. Plum or Professor Plum? It's one of the two. When it attacks, you exile 1 target card from a graveyard. If it was an artifact, you create a treasure token. Whenever you cast a spell, if mana from a treasure was spent to cast it, you draw a card and lose a life. So, it's hard, because he's a 3 mana 2/2. He wants to attack, however, I think he's generally, like, understated. Like, even if he was a 2/3, I think I would feel better about it attacking. However, as is, it's really rough. So I don't think it's really gonna do what it wants to do. Being able to draw off of casting with treasure is good. Black is a good color for that. I think it's definitely a unique commander, but I don't expect it to see too much play. We also have the special guest cards. These were introduced in the new Ixalan set. So they'll take old cards and make them look like they're something from the new set. So definitely a cool looking Field of the Dead, especially with it just being reprinted in a secret layer. I think Field of the Dead is gonna maybe drop down to like $10-15, which I could hope for. Drown in the Lock is like $1 card already. Some of the other cards they've reprinted have been like pretty expensive, but this round doesn't look too great. Tireless Tracker is like a $4 card. I think the art's pretty cool. I like the Victimize art a lot. Show and Tell is like $1 tops. Wait, no, Show and Tell is like $10-15, I believe. I don't know if the special guests will be draftable at all, so I'm not really going to factor them into a draft environment. It's definitely going to bring down the prices of each of these cards, but like Ghostly Prison's like a $5 card, Gamble's like $3, Tragic Slip is like $1. I think the arts are cool, but I don't think it's really worth anything. Next up, Nelly Borga. I don't know if this is any relation to Bell Borga. Are they the same? Anywho, when it attacks a suspect target creature, then goad all suspected creatures. A suspected creature has menacing hand block. So, I guess it's kind of cool because you can choose to not have a creature block it because it becomes suspected. And having suspected creatures be goaded is pretty strong. Definitely a kind of like turn the table against each other ability because they can't attack you, so I think it has a cool playstyle, and then whenever one or more creatures an opponent controls deal damage to one or more of your opponents, you and the controller of those creatures each draw a card. So you draw cards. So I feel like this is going to be like a draw 3 each time around the table once you get enough creatures suspected. It also has vigilance to block things, so I think Meliborka is actually pretty strong. I think whatever precon this is in is going to be pretty fun. Next up is Morska, Undersea Sleuth. So it's a Vidalcan fish detective, definitely odd typing. Green, white, blue, you have no max hand size. Pretty good. At the beginning of your upkeep investigates, you're creating an artifact every turn. However, it's generally like red, where you're going to get the payoff for creating those artifacts, or black, where you're going to get the payoff for creating tokens. So you're creating tokens that don't exactly have a payoff. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, put 2+1/+1 counters on it. So you could be doing that with the clues, which is cool. I think I see where this card's going. The fact that it's only once per turn, because it's the second card you draw each turn, is not great. However, you could stockpile clues and use them on your opponent's turn too. I don't know, I think it definitely has potential. I don't think it's as fun as Meliborka, but it's cool nonetheless. Mirko, Obsessive Theorist. Flying Vigilance, whenever you surveil, put a +1/+1 counter on it. It's a 1/3, and at the beginning of your end step, you may return target creature with power less than its power from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. So if it has a finality counter, it would it would die. It exiles itself instead. So I think it's fine. Giving Surveil a commander is cool because it doesn't really have one up until now. The fact that it's stuck to blue-black and not green-blue-black, so you get like Titan's Nest, is a bit disappointing. I think 3 colors definitely would have suited it better, but it's okay. I think it's another unique commander, but I don't know. I think there's definitely some value to it. Cost, Eyes of the Glaive. I'm assuming these 4 are going to be the 4 commander decks, but I don't know. Some of these could be like secondary commanders. Cost, Eyes of the Glaive. So, not glaive. Red, white, green, 2/2. Whenever a creature you control that was turned face up this turn deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. And you can turn target face down, attacking creature you control face up. As far as power, I'm not entirely sure. I'm trying to think, like, morph-wise, is there anything, mana value. What's like the largest thing you're cheating out here? I guess things like, Croson Cloud Scraper could be good. You can cheat out 13/13, 9/9, Achroma Angel of Fury. I guess there are things for you to cheat out morph-wise. I'm assuming they're going to be cards that are printed with it that'll be cool to cheat out, but I don't know. I think it's definitely got some potential. I don't think it's super strong, but that's fine. Not every card has to be a powerhouse. Long Goodbye. So it can be countered. Destroy target creature or planeswalker with mana value 3 or less. This is hitting like very few planeswalkers. I'm gonna be real. I think you're probably better playing Fatal Push for creature removal. However, 2 mana, I'm assuming it's one of like the the better removal for the, because they'll have like the 2-mana removal spell, and then they'll have like the 5-mana removal spell each set now, and the 5-mana one does something extra, but it's never going to be worth it. So I think Long Goodbye is fine, at least for what it is. It doesn't really do too much though. No More Lies, counter target spell unless its controller pays 3. If that spell is countered this way, exile it instead of putting it into its owner's graveyard. So I think there's some other card that exiles the spell instead, which is fine, but you're just paying for a Spell Pierce and a Mana Tithe stapled together, kind of. And like, I don't think that's really worth it. Like, nothing wrong with it. But I like, it'll be fine in draft. And outside of draft, I don't think it's seeing any play. There's better counter spells, and it's a 2-mana counter spell. So if you're gonna pay 2 mana for a counter spell, why aren't you just playing counter spell? Or Dovin's Veto. Crawl Whipcracker. It's a black and a green, reach 3/2, enters, destroy target token and opponent controls. Definitely going to see, like, it's going to be a big threat in draft. 3/2 for 2 is good. Reach is good. Destroying a token is good. We haven't gotten to it yet, but there's this guy that creates a 5/5 wolf. So being able to just take out the wolf, being able to, destroy clues if there's some way to benefit off of clues. I think it's going to be good. Assassin's Trophy is a reprint. I think that's fine. Assassin's Trophy is a great card. I think it was up to like $7 or $8. I would rather see it around like 4 or 5. So, like, I'm perfectly fine with Assassin's Trophy getting a reprint. That being said, yeah, no problems with that. I think it'll be cool on standard. I think it'll be strong enough, whatever. Case the Pilfered Proof. So whenever a detective enters the battlefield under your control, and whenever a detective you control's turn face up, put a +1/+1 counter on it. And if you control 3 or more detectives, gains the ability, if 1 or more tokens would be created under your control, those tokens plus a clue token are created instead. Sorry. I don't think it's very good. I think putting clue +1/+1 counters on your detectives is fine. However, I still don't see enough payoff for clues to really do enough. Unless there's some sort of repeatable thing I'm missing, I just don't think it's good enough. Bite Down on Crime. So you can collect evidence 6, and target creature you control gets +2/+0 until end of turn. And if you, sorry, I misread it. So you can collect evidence 6, it'll cost 2 less if you do. Target creature gets +2/+0, deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. So it's it's green removal, pretty classic, like Bite Down, like whatever. Yeah, I think it's fine. I think it'll see some draft play. Don't expect it to see anything else. Notably, it deals damage equal to its power, so you can gain things like lifelink, it can death touch, that sort of thing, so that is a little bit stronger. Vidugazi Inspector, so you can collect evidence 6. When it enters, if evidence was collected, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control and you gain 2 life. Otherwise, it's just a 2 mana 1/3 with reach. I think it's fine, it's a good blocker. As we saw at the beginning of the set, there's a good number of 2/2s, so being able to have a 1/3 to block them, especially with reach, is good. Collecting evidence, I'm not sure how it's going to play out, because so to collect evidence 6, you have to exile cards with 6 mana value total. So I think it could be fine. However, getting cards in your graveyard might be a bit of a struggle. I'm assuming there's going to be more Surveil in the set. Analyze the Pollen. So you can collect evidence 8, search your library for a basic land. And if you collected evidence 8, instead search your library for a creature or land and reveal it and put it in your hand. So, I think Traverse the Unknown is a similar card. Definitely going to be strong. I think you could actually see a fair amount of standard or commander play. Even modern possibly, because it's a creature shooter. I think that being able to collect evidence 8 is probably easier than what's Traverses? Yeah, Traverse the Ulvenwald, my bad. Is definitely easier than Delirium. So I think it'll definitely see some play. I expect it to be at least like $3 or $4. It doesn't add up. So 3 black, return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. Suspected. So giving a creature menace when it comes back is good. Could be good. However, it not being able to block, I think, kind of kills this spell. Like, I don't think it's gonna work out. Jesus, I have a lot to go. I guess let's get all the way and we'll start working our way back up. Lands are beautiful. The Surveil lands, so they're like the temples that scry, except you surveil instead. They enter tapped. I'm gonna be real, the fact that they have land types, so you can search them with fetches, I think is really good. I think they'll definitely see commander play, because temples see commander play, and I think temples are bad, honestly. So I think they'll see commander play. I think they might see modern play, because being able to search for them is good. Alkis Prof Master Sleuth, so when it enters the battlefield, investigate. You can pay X, sacrifice a clue to draw X, and gain X life. It's fine. 3 mana, 3/3 vigilance. I think it's boring. I think investigating is a boring mechanic generally. I just don't think it does enough. Wojak, I'm just gonna call it Wojak. Wojak Investigator is a 2/1, 2/4. Sorry. Yeah, 2 white, 2/4. Flying Vigilance. At the beginning of your upkeep, investigate once for each opponent who has more cards in hand than you. So, it's going to create a fair amount of tokens. If we keep our hand size low, I think creating 3 clues every turn could be strong, especially if you have other things to do with them. Being able to sacrifice them, being in black so that you can like Marionette Master to gain or to deal damage off of them. I think it's actually pretty good. And Flying Vigilance is good. It's going to be really good in draft too. Novice Inspector. So this is just Thraben Inspector, but better? Yeah. So it's literally just Thraben Inspector. So Thraben Inspector is good, so I'm gonna say Novice Inspector is probably also good. Shock's classic. I think Shock will always be good. Aurelia Above the Law. It's a 5 mana 4/4 Flying Vigilance Haste. When a player attacks with 3 or more creatures, you draw a card. So this is gonna be good in Commander, where a lot of creatures are going around. Definitely being able to draw you maybe 3 cards every turn cycle is good. Whenever a player attacks with 5 or more creatures, it deals 3 damage to each of your opponents. You gain 3 life. I think that's a little bit less likely than 3, but it's still possible. I think it'll be good in Commander. I don't think it'll be great in Commander, though. I think it'll definitely see some play, though. It's fine. I don't think it's anything special. Rakdos, Patron of Chaos. I love that Rakdos has stuck around so long. Like, he's been on every Ravnica set. And, like, he's just vibing. I don't think he's really done anything, like, out there. He's just kind of chilling. Flying Trample 6/6 because he's like always Flying Trample. At the beginning of your end step, target opponent may sacrifice 2 non-land, non-token permanents. If they don't, you draw 2 cards. So I think that'll be good in draft. I don't think it's gonna be. It could possibly see like the standard play, but I don't know. I feel like an opponent will just let you draw 2 cards half the time. I think they're probably fine with that. I don't know. I don't think it's anything special. Lightning Helix is Lightning Helix. Definitely draft Lightning Helix. It's good. Lightning Helix is always good. Fanatical Strength. So, it's Giant Growth, costs 1 more, but it also gives it Trample. I think this does fit some of the problems I've seen in the set, where like you have the one guy whose power and toughness are equal to double the number of instants and sorceries in your graveyard, doesn't have Trample. I think giving things Trample will help out, but I don't think it's really going to fix the set or anything. Meddling Youths, of course you got your Scooby-Doo reference. I don't see the dog though. Where's the dog? Whenever you attack with 3 or more creatures, you investigate. It's a 4/5 for 5. I think it's fine. I think haste pulls it ahead to being okay, but it's really nothing special. I don't think investigating is enough of a payoff, especially having to attack with 3 or more creatures. Yeah. So I think it's fine. Gleaming Gear Drake, when it enters, you investigate. When you sacrifice an artifact, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. So I think with clues being so prevalent, it might be pretty good. However, it's a 1/1 flyer. 1/1 flyers aren't going to be bad most of the time. It can get bigger. I'm not I don't like investigate, and I think that's really what's holding me back here. Demand answers, so as an additional cost, you sacrifice an artifact or discard a card, you draw a card, or you draw 2 cards. So it's just better Thrill of Possibility because it gives you another option. I think, of course, it's going to see Pauper play, it's going to edge out Thrill of Possibility. It's pretty good. Deduce, draws a card, investigates, it's an instant, 2 mana. Okay, so if you're playing black, you can draw 2 cards, lose 2 life in multiple ways. There's Sign in Blood, and there's Night's Whisper. This is just, you're paying 4 mana to draw 2 cards. That's just bad. It's not good. I don't think Deduce is a good card. Feel like it'll be fine in draft, but Burden of Proof. So you enchant creature, it gets +2/+2 as long as it's detective. Otherwise, it has 1/1 and can't block detectives. So I think this is going to be really good removal for draft. It reminds me of Witness Protection, which is one of my favorite cards. Flash is nice, and I think it's pretty good. Topiary Panther, 4 green, trample, 6/5, basic land cycling. I think they realized in Lord of the Rings that throwing basic land cycling on a big creature, like they did with, I think it's Oliphant or whatever, it's just good. It makes a creature better. And I think they've been doing that more. They did in Ixalan with the Cycle of Dinosaurs, and those were pretty good in draft. I think Topiary Panther is going to be really good in draft. I could possibly even see it having some Pauper play as a top-end threat in, maybe not Tron, but like, I don't know. I think it's pretty good. Basic land cycling just makes it better. Out Cold, so it can't be countered. Tap up to 2 creatures and put a stun counter on each of them. Investigate. I don't think Investigate's doing much. So you take 2 creatures out of the game for 2 turns. Which, sounds fine, but unless you have some way to win the game afterwards, I don't think it's doing enough. I think that's kind of just draft chav. Hotshot Investigators. So when it enters, return up to one target creature to its owner's hand. If you controlled that creature, investigate. I don't think investigating is enough. It's a 6 mana 4/4, so its stats aren't great. And I don't think it's good. I think it's a bad card. Bethic Criminologist, so 5 mana 4/5. When it enters or attacks, you may sacrifice an artifact if you do draw a card. I think it's gonna be fine in draft. Not gonna be seen anywhere else. It's okay. Curious Cadaver. It's a 4 mana 3/1 flyer. When you sacrifice a clue, return it from your graveyard to your hand. All you had to do is make it go from the graveyard to the battlefield. Maybe there would have been some infinite loop I'm missing, but it's a 4 mana 3/1. That's terrible. That's terrible stats. If you would have made it a 3/3, maybe I could think about it. Even a 3/2 would be a little bit better, but it dies to Stormcrows. It's not good. Magnifying Glass. Again, I'm a little biased here, so it's a mana rock that doesn't add any colored mana, and you can pay 4 to investigate. I just don't think that's enough. I think it might actually be a reprint. Yeah, it's a reprint. And if it wasn't good as, if it wasn't good in Shadows, I don't think it's going to be good here. Steam Vents is a Shockland. Those are great. There's a great reprint. I'm fine with that. I always want those to be reprinted. Senator Peacock. Artifacts you control are clues in addition to their other types and have 2 sacrifices. Artifact, draw a card. Whenever you sacrifice a clue, target creature can't be blocked this turn. So making a creature unblockable is cool. However, she's 5 mana. She's a 5 mana 3/4. She could have been 4 mana. She would have been better. She could have been a 3 mana 2/3, and I think she would be fine. I think she wouldn't be busted. But the cost she's at is just way too high. We're gonna compare it to a creature that also has 2 pips. So we're just gonna look at Sheoldred the Apocalypse. Sheoldred the Apocalypse costs 1 less. So it costs 1 less. It has Death Touch. It has 1 more power, 1 more toughness, and it drains your opponents and gains you life. If we want to look at a similar creature, mana cost wise, we look at just a 5 mana. So a 5 mana creature does all of this and has Vigilance. It's a 4/7. You can make your 5 mana creature be stronger than a 3/4. Make it a 5/5. It's perfectly fine as a 5/5. And I know, but it could make itself unblockable. Right, but you still have to pay for those clues. Or you have to pay to create artifacts that will become clues. It's not really going anywhere. Dining Room is just another investigate land. I don't really care for them. Lead Pipe feels like it should be part of the clue set, but it's not. Maybe they'll have it reprinted in the clue set as well. Whatever. When a equipped creature dies, each opponent loses 1 life. You can sacrifice Lead Pipe to draw a card, and then equip 2. So I still kind of like the idea of being able to sacrifice the equipment later in the game for value. I think that could be cool. I don't think equipped creature dies, each opponent loses 1 life is enough. Unless you have some way to one of my favorite combos is Pitiless Plunder and Chatterfang. So when Chatterfang activates its ability, you can sacrifice any number of squirrels to give a creature -X/-X, where X is the number of squirrels you sacrifice. Pitiless Plunder has whenever you sacrifice a creature, you create a token. You create a treasure token. Chatterfang has whenever you create a token, create that many squirrels. So you are able to sacrifice an infinite number of squirrels. If you were able to sacrifice one squirrel, somehow be able to attach lead pipe to it, then sacrifice it to deal infinite damage, I think that would be cool in concept. But there's no way to like instantly have lead pipe become equipped to that creature or to the squirrel token. So like I don't think this is really going anywhere. Stats wise, like it's not bad. +2/+0 is fine. I think it'll be fine enough in draft, but I just don't think it's gonna do enough. Not on my watch. Exiles target attacking creature. Really good in draft. I don't think it's going to be seen anywhere else. Exiling is notable, getting around indestructible. I like it a lot, but I just don't think it's going to be good enough. Crashing Footfalls. So you create 2 rhinos. It's seen play in a ton of different formats. Crashing Footfalls is a good card. And I really like the special guest art. Yeah, that's fine. Teysa Opulent Oligarch. So, 3 mana, 2/3 Death Touch, pretty good. At the beginning of your end step, investigate for each opponent who lost life this turn. Okay, so in draft you're only investigating once, but it could be cool in Commander. Whenever a clue you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, create a 1/1 white and black spirit token. Here's what kills it. The ability triggers only once each turn. That kills so many abilities, and so the one good thing is you can sacrifice 1 clue on your turn, sacrifice another clue on your opponent's turn. So in Commander, it'll work out because you can just sacrifice it as you go around the table. However, in Standard play, I'm not really sure because that really hurts it. But being able to create a 1/1 every turn is kind of a value engine. And I think that could actually see some sort of modern play. Especially with Death Touch. Death Touch is always good. They gave Shieldred Death Touch, and Shieldred's busted. I don't think Death Touch will ever be a bad ability. This is a payoff to all those clue tokens, but a lot of the things that make clues so far have been blue. So that's not really going to help much in Commander. And it's going to force you to play another color in draft, so I don't know. Kaya, Spirit's Justice. I'm going to be real here. Alright. Kaya is not the Planeswalker I would have chosen. I would have picked Ralzeric. We're in Ravnica, that's where they're from. Ralzeric, we have his husband in the set. Like, why not? I feel like that's really not that much to ask for. I feel like Kaya got her appearance. She was in, like, March of the Machine. She, helped fight the Phyrexians. I just don't think she's interesting enough to need another appearance. But anywho, 2 white-black, 3 loyalty to start with. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control and/or creature cards in your graveyard are put into exile, you may choose a creature card from among them. Until end of turn, target token you control becomes a copy of it, except it has flying. So, it's complicated. I feel like there's something there. However, just till end of turn kind of hurts it. Till end of turn hurts a lot of things, but so that token also has to be able to have already been able to attack, or it had haste. I don't know. So you can surveil 2, then exile a card from a graveyard. So since this does exile a card, you could, let's say you had a clue token out there, and your opponent has like a 5/5 in the graveyard. So you could use the 2, exile the 5/5 in their graveyard, and that clue token becomes a 5/5. I think that's pretty good. I think you can gain a lot of value off of that, especially with it giving the token flying. Her +1 creates a 1/1 white and black spirit token with flying. So this is a token you can put it on. I think creating tokens as a +1 is always good because it gives you options to protect the Planeswalker, but I think it's fine. Then, -2, exile target creature you control. For each other player, exile up to 1 target creature that player controls. So you could, like, just destroy a token creature you control. You could destroy a 1/1 you control. I think this could see some cool commander play. Being able to more or less just remove something of your choice from each player's board, creature-wise, is good, especially with exiling. But I'm having a hard time getting a read on it. Like, I know what it's trying to do, but I just don't. I don't know if it works. I think I'd really have to see it in play. Kellen comes back for a 3rd fucking time in a row. I actually, believe it or not, I fucking hate Kellen. Yeah, he has an adventure. Oh, he has an adventure every time he shows up, but it's some bullshit. Alright, I don't like him. Like, is he a planeswalker? Because he's showing up in different sets. I get he found an Omen Path, I think that's his thing, but like, why? Why can't he just stay out? Like, are they trying to make him the protagonist of MTG? I'm a little confused. But anywho, he's a 4-mana 3/4 flying vigilance. When it attacks, destroy up to 1 target artifact. If you control that permanent, draw a card. And then you can tail the suspect for green and blue to investigate and play an additional land this turn. I'm almost thinking Uro Titan of Wrath, because Uro lets you play that additional land when you first cast it, and Uro was banned. However, I don't think Kellen really gets anything off of it. He's not a 6/6. Flying Vigilance is fine. Again, you investigate with him, and then you can destroy the clue token that you created when you investigated. But I don't think it's very good. I don't like it. Auspicious Revival. So target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Investigate. Bad. I'm just gonna say, I think it's bad. We have that draw card Investigate. We have a give +3/+3 and Trample. So either one of those is gonna do, like, if you want cards, you play the one that draws you a card. If you want your creature to get big, you play the +3/+3. I don't think you play this, like, at all. Aurelia's Vindicator. So it's a 4-mana 4/2 Angel. Flying Lifelink Ward 2, which Ward 2 is fine, but I think that's pretty easy to get around. Notably, it's interesting to see we keep getting cheaper Angels, which is nice. So you can disguise it, so you pay 3 to cast it face down as a 2/2 with Ward 2. And then you can undisguise it for 3, a white, and X. When it's turned face up, exile up to X other target creatures from the battlefield and or creatures from the graveyard. When it leaves the battlefield, return the exiled cards to their owner's hand. So it's a 4/2, so it's gonna die pretty easily. So those cards are gonna be going back to hand. And just how much you're paying to remove whatever that is and or get creature cards back from your graveyard, you're paying so much, because 3 to play it face down, 4 to play it back face up, that's at least 7 mana. At least, it's over 2 turns if you want, but it's at very least 7 mana, and then X, on top of everything else. I think this is like a bulk mythic. I don't think this is good. I think this might be probably one of the worst mythics I've ever seen. Scene of the Crime. So it enters tapped, you add colorless, you can tap an untapped creature to add 1 mana of any color, and you can sacrifice it to draw a card. I like this better than the clue rooms that create treasure, or not treasure, that create clues, because you're paying 6 mana for to draw a card, whereas you just pay 2 here. Notably, you can tap Scene of the Crime 4 mana and then sacrifice it. It's kind of similar to Cryptic Caves, However, Cryptic Caves doesn't come in tapped, so it is worse than that. I don't know. I think this has potential. Etrata, Deadly Fugitive, so 1 blue-black, 1/4 Death Touch, face-down creatures, so disguise creatures, morph creatures, whatever you control have 2 blue-black, turn this creature face up. If you can't, exile it. Then you may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost. I'm a little confused about that. I don't know how you wouldn't be able to cast it. Or how you, like... Oh, because there's that one enchantment that can morph. I forgot about that. And then whenever an assassin you control deals combat damage to a player, cloak the top card of that player's library. I don't know what cloak does. I'm assuming you place it on your side of the field face down as a 2/2. That's my guess, because that would be another reason why the second part of her ability is the way it is. I think that's cool. Giving Assassin Tribal another option is cool, or Typal, or whatever. It's fine. Deadly Complication, on the other hand, I don't think it's fine. 1 black-red, destroy target creature, or put a +1/+1 counter on target suspected creature you control. You may have it no longer become suspected. So, I'm having some problems here, because some part of me thinks this could be good, because it's destroying target creature. I don't think the second part's ever going to come into play. And I'm having trouble telling, because we've only seen one other removal spell, if it's going to be good or not. Case of the Filched Falcon. When it enters, investigate. Don't like that. When you control 3 or more artifacts, it gains 2 blue. Sacrifice this case. Put 4 +1/+1 counters on target non-creature artifact you control. It becomes a 0/0 bird with flying in addition to its other types. So, you're paying for a 4-mana 4/4 flyer, but you have to have 3 artifacts in order for it to exist. Well, 2 artifacts, because it creates an artifact. So, I don't know. Like, it could see some sort of draft play, but I don't think it's good. I think it might actually be bad. Talking about good, though, Agris Cost, Spirit of Justice, 2 red, white, 2/4. Fine, whatever. Double Strike Vigilance, good abilities. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, choose up to 1 target creature. If it's suspected, exile it, otherwise suspect. So, suspected creatures can't block. So when it attacks, you can choose a creature to not block it because it becomes suspected. And then you can then choose afterwards, like when you next attack, to just exile a creature. I think this is brutal. I think this can pick apart opponents' boards. I think it'll be cooling commander, and I could even see it having some sort of modern play. I mean, it's really good. Probably one of my favorite cards from the set overall. But let me know what you guys think, because maybe I might just overvalue exiling things. Especially because those things don't come back. Like, there's no way to get them back, so let me know. Judith Carnage Connoisseur. This, I'm gonna call it peak my kind of deck. This is peak Magic to me, like, honestly. So it's 3 black-red, 3/4. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, choose 1. That spell gains Death Touch and Lifelink. So you could have an Arc Lightning, which is a 3-mana spell that has Death Touch and Lifelink. So it becomes also Lightning Helix because you're going to gain 3. And then each creature that you hit for 1 also dies because it has Death Touch. So that's really good. You could give things like Anger of the Gods Death Touch to just destroy the board. It's cheaper than, what's its name? Sunsong and Fire Speaker, which is great. And then you can also choose to create a 2/2 imp token with whenever this creature dies, deals 2 damage to each opponent. 2 damage to each opponent is going to add up fast, especially when you're casting a lot of small spells, so I think there's multiple ways to take this deck, and I really enjoy that. I think this might be one of my favorite commanders from the set. The art's cool, and then you can't see it here, but there's alternate art that they showed off earlier today, and the alternate art is also really good. Massacre Girl Known Killer, on the other hand, I don't really care for. I love the original Massacre Girl. I think it's a cool card. I think it's a funny name to just be, this is just Massacre Girl. That's her name. But she's a 4-mana menace. Creatures you control have Wither. And then whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, if its toughness was 1 or less, draw a card. When I say I didn't like it, it's because I don't like how forced I think it feels. So, because Wither kills in -1/-1 counters instead of damage, any creature dying in battle is gonna have toughness 1 or less. So, like, you're drawing cards every time you kill something. Your opponent can't attack you without you blocking, destroying their board, and then gaining a shit ton of life. Like, I don't care for that. I think how this deck is gonna be built is like, and it's gonna sound weird, black first strikers, because your opponent can attack in, you're gonna hit them with first strike. Oh, so if I deal 3 first strike damage when they hit me afterwards, they're gonna deal 3 less damage. Like, I think this deck is just not gonna be fun, and I don't like that. Axebane Ferox. So it's a 4-mana 4/4 Death Touch haste, which will be good in draft. And then it can't be targeted by spells unless an opponent collects evidence 4, so they have to exile cards with total mana value 4 or greater from their graveyard. I think that's just too easy to fulfill, so I don't think, like, just pretend Ward doesn't even exist, honestly. And then you see a 4/4 Death Touch haste. So that's, like, fine. It's going to hit the board, it might hit in, but, like, I don't think it's really doing enough. Tulsimir, Midnight's Light. So it creates a 5/5 when it enters. I talked about this one earlier with the Mantis. Or not the Mantis, but it's the bug that kills a token. So when it enters, you create the 5/5 green-white token with trample. Whenever a wolf attacks, if Tulsimir also attacks, target creature an opponent controls blocks that wolf this combat able. So this can be good because you can just kind of remove an opponent's creature that the wolf can kill, but this also kind of incentivizes your opponents to just kill the creature. I think it'll be good in draft. I don't think it'll really see much play elsewhere. I think it's kind of boring, but whatever. Branch of Vitu-Ghazi. So it's a colorless land that you can pay to have it come in as a 2/2, which I think is pretty good. And when it's turned face up, add 2 mana of any one color. Until end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. So I think that's pretty good, because then the disguise cost comes out to like 1, especially with it kind of fixing your mana as well. I think that's pretty solid. 2 of 1 color does help cast things, because I've seen a couple spells that cost 2 of the same color. I think it's probably better than just playing a basic land. Getting a 2/2 is always going to be good. Tristani, 3 Whispers. Spoilers, guys, I hate to be the guy, but like, Murders at Karlov Mansion, the middle one's the murder. Because they just had to tell us who the murderer was on the first live stream. But, anywho, green, white, 4/4. So it's a 3-mana 4/4. So they know that they can make overstated creatures still. Like, they know they can do that. And you can pay 2 to give target creature Death Touch, 1 to give target creature Vigilance, and 3 to give target creature Double Strike. So, I think this card's really good. I think it's going to be good in draft. I think it could see some sort of modern play. It's overstated, which is good. It can give other creatures Double Strike, which is good. Give them Death Touch, which is good. It does a little bit of everything. And we're not going to mention that Death Touch and Double Strike, which more Death Touch and First Strike, but together they're really good. So I think this card is just going to be really good. Kylox, Visionary Inventor. So it's a 7 mana Menace Ward 2 Haste. When it attacks, sacrifice any number of other creatures, then exile the top X card of your library, where X is their total power. You may cast any number of instant or sorcery spells from among them without paying their mana cost. I like this card a lot. The fact that it's 7 mana is going to make it hard to cast, but when it hits the board, I think that's probably just you win. Because I think you're going to storm off, like, as soon as it hits the board. As soon as it attacks. If your opponent can't pay the ward 2 and they can't kill it, you just win the game. Krenko, Baron of Tin Street. I think this is the worst Krenko yet. I like the other 2 Krenkos a lot. I play both, but this one kind of sucks. So it's a 3 mana, 3/3 haste. Sacrifice an artifact, put a +1/+1 counter on each goblin you control, which is fine. And then whenever an artifact you control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, you may pay 1 red. If you do, create a 1/1 goblin with haste. So this is a go tall wide goblins, is how I'm gonna put it. You want your goblins to all get bigger. And I think it's just, maybe it could be good. But I always think of goblins as a go really fucking wide, like I just happen to have 300 goblins, at the commander table type of thing. And it doesn't do that. So, like, I could see it in a goblin deck, because giving all your goblins +1/+1, +1/+1 counters is good, especially with something like all will be 1. That could be busted. But it has no way to create goblins, so I think that kind of hurts its viability. Case the Ransacked Lab, I like a lot. So your instants and sorceries cost 1 less to cast, which is good. If you've cast 4 more instants and sorceries this turn, you get to solve it. And then whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, draw a card. So it's just gonna like fuel your deck. I think that's really strong. And it's gonna help you go fast. Casting 4 instants and sorceries is really hard though. I think that's gonna be the one problem with it, but I think it's definitely possible. War Leader's Call is probably one of the strongest cards in the set, that, like, personally. So, creatures you control get +1/+1, so it's a Glorious Anthem. And then whenever a creature enters under your control, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. So that's Impact Tremors. So it's Impact Tremors and Glorious Anthem stapled together for the price of only 1. I expect this card to be at least like $5 for a while, because I think it's really good. I think go wide decks are going to benefit greatly from playing this. I think it's going to it's really strong. Another possible favorite from the set, because it's just good. Izoni, Center of the Web. I believe she might be the new Guildmaster of the Golgari, but don't quote me on that. But she's a 6 mana 5/4 menace. When she enters the battlefield or attacks, you may collect evidence for it. If you do, you create 2/1 black and green spiders with menace and reach. And then you can sacrifice 4 tokens to surveil 2, draw 2, gain 2. So I think collecting evidence is fine. She's in good colors to get things into the graveyard. I don't think her stats are good enough. I think the spiders are cool, but I think we have better spider commanders, especially because she doesn't really interact with them other than, like, let's say you're only sacrificing tokens that are created by her. So we're gonna say that we collected evidence for it, and we did that twice, and we created those spiders. So we're sacrificing 4 2/1s to surveil 2, draw 2, gain 2. We're sacrificing 8 power to draw 2 cards. Like, I don't think that's very good. The fact that she can do it multiple times a turn is pretty good. I mentioned the Chatterfang loop earlier, being able to use her instead of Chatterfang's ability. So you could like draw out your deck is kind of cool. Being able to sacrifice other tokens is cool. I just don't think she does enough. Let's see, how far are we? Oh, good. We're just about done. You guys ready for this? A killer among us. Oh, they did the funny thing. Oh my god. So when it enters, you create a 1/1 human, a 1/1 blue merfolk, a 1/1 red goblin. Then secretly choose one of them. So I guess you like write it down or whatever. You can sacrifice it, reveal the chosen creature type. And if target attacking creature token is the chosen type, you put 3 1/1 counters on it and it gains death touch until end of turn. So you create 3 blockers, and then you can attack with one of them that you chose. Like you chose beforehand, and then that creature will gain 3 +1/+1 counters and death touch. So it becomes a 4/4 death touch until end of turn. I mean, like, that's 6 power for 5 mana. I think it's cool. I like the whole concept, but I don't think it's really good enough. I don't think it's strong enough. I don't think it does enough. Night Drinker Moroi. 4 mana. Disguise. This is another disguise creature, which is cool. When it enters, you lose 3 life. So I guess by flipping it over with disguise, you can skip that, and then it's a flying 4/2. I don't think it's very good. Paying 5 mana with disguise for a 4/2 flyer isn't good. Paying 4 mana for a 4/2 flyer that loses you life isn't good. Also, it doesn't really look like a vampire. I'm gonna be real. It looks like a demon, and it's not very good. I think definitely draft chaff. Expose the culprits. You can turn target face down, creature face up. I like that. I think that's cool. But I haven't really seen enough of disguise to where paying to do that is really worth it. And then you can exile any number of face-up creatures you control with disguises in a face-down pile. Shuffle that pile, then cloak them. So they'll become 2/2s with Ward 2. I think this is a fun game. I think I have that Chaos deck on my channel. I think I would use this in the Chaos deck to just turn everything face down, and then I'm not even going to look at what I'm attacking with and just attack randomly and then find some way to flip them up. I think that would be fun, but I don't think that's ever really going to be good. I don't think it's good at all. Like, I think this card is bad. Which, is there even a way to flip them face up again? For its mana cost. Yeah, no, it's not good. Not good at all. Gadget Technician, 2 blue-red, 3/2. You can disguise it, and when it enters the battlefield or is turned face up, create a 1/1 Thopter with flying. So you can either pay 3 mana one turn, 2 mana the next turn, or you can just pay 4 mana. It doesn't really matter. I don't really like that. I'm gonna be real. I think I like the choice mattering in some way, especially because it just does the same thing either way. And I don't think the Thopter is enough of a payoff for 5 mana, so I think paying 4 is probably enough, but I don't like it. Last 6. So, Somala Sentry. Whenever a face-down permanent you control is turned face up, put a +1/+1 counter on it, and a +1/+1 counter on Somala Sentry. So this is a payoff, but I don't think it's really enough of a payoff. Reach is fine. A 1/3 for 3 is fine. I think there was a 1/3 for 3 that was better with Reach earlier. So I think I would take that. I don't think Somala Sentry is really worth picking up. Galvanize. I don't know if this is a reprint or not. I'm trying to remember. I like the art a lot. Is So it deals 3 damage to target creatures, so it can bolt something. Or if you've drawn 2 or more cards this turn, deals 5 damage instead. So it's fine for removal. Being an instant is a leg up. I think it's good enough for draft, but not good enough for anything else. I like Prime Novelist a lot. I think he's adorable. Whenever you sacrifice an artifact, you put a +1/+1 counter on it and add red. That's going to be so good in treasure decks. Just think about that. Every treasure adds 2. That's just, it's so good. He's going to get really big. And I think it'll be a must-add for treasure decks. I think Prosper's going to love it. I think Ziatora will like it. I think just those sort of decks, this is going to be really good. In fact, a staple, I wholeheartedly expect this card to be over 75 cents. I'm going to be real. That's a hot take. I'm going to be real. I think that's where it's going to be. Public Thoroughfare enters tapped. When it enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless you tap an untapped artifact or land you control. Add 1 mana of any color. So back in War of the Spark, I think they had one in Strixhaven too. There was, I think Strixhaven had like Archway Commons. So you pay 1 or else sacrifice it, enters, and it can add 1 mana of any color. So tapping an untapped land is pretty much the same thing as paying 1. And being able to tap an untapped artifact is also good. With all the clues running around, I kind of see this as just add 1 mana of any color, enters tapped. So I think it's actually pretty good. Especially for draft. I think Public Thoroughfare will be pretty good in draft. Airtight Alibi, 2 green flash, enchant creature. When Airtight Alibi enters the battlefield, untap enchanted creature, gains hexproof. If it's suspected, it's no longer suspected. Gets +2/+2 and can't become suspected. So, I think flash hexproof is cool. I think that's pretty good. The rest of it though, I think +2/+2 probably isn't enough. And then the whole suspected thing, I think, is kind of just bland. It's kind of flavorish. I don't think that's really going to come into play enough, but I mean, we haven't drafted it yet. We haven't really seen the full set. We haven't drafted it, so who knows? Suspecting could be really big. And then final card of the review, Convenient Target. So enchant creature. When convenient target enters the battlefield, suspect enchanted creature. It gets +1/+1, and you can pay 2 in a red to return it from your graveyard to your hand. I don't think this is... So, we saw that commander card earlier, where suspected creatures get goaded whenever it attacks, Belporca or whatever. This would be good in that, but nowhere else, because, like, you don't want your creatures to not be able to block. I guess +1/+1 in Menace might be enough to make that worthwhile, actually, but I'm always dubious of Menace, because when I play Menace, my opponent always has enough creatures to block. But when my opponents play Menace, it is always a problem. So, I guess you could play like a turn 1 1-drop, turn 2 convenient target, and then your opponent's not going to have 2 creatures, so you could just start swinging, which is good. But, I don't know, I'm really divided. And I think that's how a lot of this set is. I'm really divided on how all of this is going to play out. I don't like clues. Just straight up, I don't like clues as a mechanic. They were introduced in one of my favorite sets of all time, but I think they're underpowered. I don't think they do enough. I don't think there's enough support. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you want me to review the rest of the set when it comes out? Like, do you want me to do draft guides? Is there any deck you guys have been looking forward to? Just let me know. It's kind of been a while. See ya.